Okay, Dan, coming to you from the third hole. Our opponents are behind us right here. Mike and I are getting our butts handed to us so far. We played deplorably on the first hole. We deserved to lose it, and we did by one stroke. This second hole, they chipped in for a birdie. Well, what do you do? And then this hole, we are sitting, this is the third hole, we are sitting 98 yards out from the front of the green. And they're over here in a little bit of trouble behind a tree. So let's see how this unfolds. Damn it. Okay, we're 3 down. We both parred, but they got a stroke on this hole because of higher handicap. So we go to the fourth hole, 3 down. Okay. We had a glimmer of hope. We won the 6th hole as well. We were set up for a birdie, but we didn't have to because they bogeyed. And then the 7th hole, Mike had a really good drive. And unfortunately, so did Andy, one of the guys on the other team. We had an awesome look at birdie on that. And Mike and I both barely missed. So we ended up having the hole. So now we were dormy, 2 down with 2 to go. And on the 8th hole, I drove to the right, but I was, 60 yards from the green. And Andy hit it straight, hit this monster drive. I mean, he was kind of hitting it all over the place today. Hit it 4 feet off the green, almost drove the green. So by the time we got on the green and putted the first time, they had 3 strokes to get in. It only took them 2. They birdied. They won 2 and 1.
4 down after 4. And
so goes life. So that was our tale of woe. Thank God for the supporter shield. And actually talking with Lucas afterwards, his team also got pummeled. He said a lot of the teams just completely ignore. I mean, they play the regular season, but they're not trying to win. Whereas the playoffs are what they focus on. Where Mike and I obviously were just the opposite. So when I think back on it, I didn't really mention that when we, on the very first hole, it was a par 5, and there were the 2 guys we were playing. One guy was probably in his 20s, and the other guy was maybe 30s. I mean, they could hit it a long way, but the one guy in his 30s had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth the whole time. I mean, he's pretty much chain smoked the entire round. Nice guy, but he even hit with a cigarette in his mouth. And so Mike and I stepped up. We hit first. I duck hooked it, not even 200 yards into the left rough. Mike hit a pop-up to third base, also in the rough, like 150 yards. So we ended up having to take Mike's. These guys hit it probably 275, both in the fairway. After their second shot, they were sitting 20 yards in front of the green, line 2. Mike and I, both of our second shots were no better than our first shot. Our third shots were no better than our second shot. We were in a fairway bunker 50 yards from the green, line 3. We got on the green in 4, missed the putt for par. They ended up parring, so they won the first hole. Second hole we get to. It was a par 3. All of us hit short, but they were way right as well. And we were like 5 feet from the green, just below the pin. Pretty simple, straightforward up and down for a par. Somehow they chip in from 30 feet for a birdie. And so now we're 2 down. On the third hole, we both parred it, but they got a stroke on the third hole. So they won the third hole. So now we're 3 down. The fourth hole is this crappy little par 3, straightforward, no trouble. We all ended up short of the green. The other group as well. They chipped to like within 1 foot of the pin for a conceded par, and Mike and I are like 10 feet long. Missed the comeback putts. Now we're 4 down with 5 to go. We birdie the next hole. We're 3 down with 4 to go. We They bogey the next hole, and we end up with a good chance at a birdie, but we didn't have to even putt. They conceded the hole. The crazy thing is the guy with a cigarette out of his mouth, on the second hole, he hit it. No, the third hole, he hit it dead left into a tree. The fifth hole, which is a par 4, he hit it dead left out of bounds. The sixth hole, he hits it 2 fairways over. And so now we're on the 7th hole. We're 2 down with 3 to go. We're feeling at least optimistic. And we all hit good drives. And Mike and I both missed our birdie putts. I mean, we just burned the edges of the hole. So we end up having that hole. So now we're dormy, 2 down with 2 to go. 8th hole, we have a reasonably good drive, but we're right, but we have an easy chip on. I mean, it's 50 yards from the green. And the guy with a cigarette, dangling out of his mouth, hits this incredibly good drive and is literally 4 feet from the green. So he probably hit it 305 yards. And because we're dormy, all they have to do is have the hole, and we get on the green. We missed our birdie putts, but it didn't matter because they chipped to about 2 feet. And at that point they had 2 putts to win the match, and we conceded, and it was just like, God, this sucks. So anyway, onward and upwards. We did get the supporter shield, so there's that. It just feels like we should have done better in the playoffs, and we could have, we should have. Oh well. Mike and I both get nervous, and when we get nervous, we tend to lift our heads, and when you lift your head, bad things happen. So anyway, back to normal life. I'm here at the Fuente de Gastos. Preston and I are supposed to be working on some of the still working on the window trim, but as you can see, it's raining. So I don't think we're going to climb up onto the ladder or the roof, because this one we're actually doing those 2 windows up there right at the roof line. So we'd actually have to stand on that roof. And the roof is fairly steep, so I think we'll find some inside work to do today. Otherwise, I watched your video about, what was your video about? Moving Taryn into school, and the flour mill burning down. It's really too bad about that flour mill. I tell you, at least it didn't blow up. I mean, that's the thing about flour mills, is sometimes all that flour dust will suddenly ignite and create a massive explosion. I mean, I know it burned down, but at least nobody was killed, right? So that's good. Then of course the question is, are they going to rebuild, or are they just going to push their flour manufacturing to their other facilities? You say this is like a national company that owned it. We have a big flour mill, 2 of them in Winona, but I don't think those are owned by national companies. I think those are locals. So how's Sarah doing? Actually, I'm going to call her, because I can ask Sarah how she's doing with Taryn being gone. Yeah, I know it's probably taking some getting used to, but at least the good thing is she's got plenty of work to do, and and she likes to write, so at least it gives her, being busy is helpful. So, and here, school starts on Monday. I just decided now to not drop the class because Kara's going to be here at least through the fall. Beth is having a really tough time at work. She was working remotely, and then she was working remotely once, this last 6 months she's been remote working. They allowed a lot of people to work remotely just Tuesdays and Thursdays. But now they want to go back to the way it was to pre-COVID life and have everybody, essentially be working out of the offices. Part of it, I really got to believe that it's because they don't want to have to make exceptions. They don't want to have to, the supervisors don't want to have to say this person gets to work remotely and that person doesn't. Because as you know, there's just, there's a lot of people who you can't trust them, to get their work done remotely, and they don't want to have to deal with that situation. And I think the university as a whole would love to get back to just business as usual pre-COVID. But the problem is that a lot of people who've gotten a taste of working remotely want to keep doing it, and they're not going to be allowed to. So Beth was really, really upset yesterday. And I just think that it's not going to be an option for her. And yet they say that they want to work everybody in the office this semester, and then they'll see how it goes, and they'll reassess. But I think what that means is you're back in the office, and there's no way in hell we're ever going to let you work remotely again. And I told her if she thinks that it's a possibility, she needs to go and push her supervisor into telling her either, no, it's not going to be a possibility ever again, or yes, it's a very real possibility, so that she doesn't get her hopes up if it's not. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on here. God, I'm already at like 15 minutes or something ridiculous. So I'm going to cut this off. Going to work at the Fuente de Gastos. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.